Hey.
Hey.
Welcome, everyone, to Fantasy Top 5.
We are back.
Monday edition. We do
Special
them every
Monday, Labor
actually.
Day edition.
That's true. So how are you feeling today, Sean?
Truthfully, I feel exhausted.
So do I. I wonder why that could be. The thing is, I'm actually really depressed about it because I had this whole thing planned out for today's show. I was going to, it's going to be all about how excited we are, how happy we are. You know, football season starts in 3 days. This is our last preseason show, so we're going to be starting actual shows at that point. It's a 3-day weekend, which is really nice with Labor Day.
Which should be resting.
We should be resting. And then we're also going to go out to Nevada and bet on all the games, which is fun because you can have the games beforehand. You can do the AFC, NFC championship, the
Rushing
Super Bowl
title,
picks. Yeah, there's a lot of fun.
passing and receiving titles. Yeah, there's tons of stuff you can bet on.
So we decided to go out there.
And
A bunch
that
of
was
us.
that was the start to the end, I guess. Like we live in Utah, and they do a thing here called the Fun Bus, and it's because there's this little town right on the Nevada-Utah border that lets you gamble because it's in Nevada, and so all the Salt Lake people go to Wendover so they can bet on games or whatever, play some blackjack. And so we're like, well, it's the Fun Bus. It's been going for a while, so it has to be fun, and it must be on a bus, if I had to guess. So
It was a bus. It was actually, but fun was not. It broke down on the side of the road on the way out there, which
literally
wasn't
10 minutes
too
out of town.
bad. Yeah, it was like an hour and a half of sitting on the side of the road, but that was just an omen of things. We should have just turned around and came back at that point.
Yeah.
So we got out there, tried to get back on the bus, and they said, no way.
Yeah, they're like, we don't have seats for you. And we're like, we have tickets. And then then the crazy thing is usually at that point they say, no, you don't. Or they say, those are the wrong tickets. But no, they actually said, oh, you do indeed have the right tickets. We don't have seats for you.
And so they left us.
Yeah.
And they said goodbye, and off they went. And there we stood.
Yeah, and
Not knowing what to do. I wanted to sleep on the street. I found an outlet for my phone to charge, and I thought we were going to be homeless, sleeping on the sidewalk. The girls did not agree with that. They said no way and wanted a hotel. So we did that and got back early this morning. And
by early, like 11.
I guess
we
it
got
wasn't
like
that early.
Yeah, we got like 4 hours of sleep. Like it was rough. But so basically, you almost didn't have a podcast today.
It was pretty close. Yeah, we tried to prepare everything.
But like great hosts, we think we got it done. We're here, at least in spirit. I don't know about physically how much I'm here or mentally, but we are here in spirit. So we're gonna try to give you a pretty decent podcast.
At least you have an excuse if this one's bad, though. The other ones we didn't have near as well. I guess with preseason we didn't know what we were doing, but still. This one we have a legitimate excuse if everybody hates it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So here we are. We did make a lot of really good bets, though. I'm excited because I did all my bets $5.
Same with me.
And we did 8 of them. And so I did 8 $5 bets, so $40. And if I win, I win $400. If I win all 8.
Yeah.
So those kind of bets are a lot of fun. Like, I'm actually glad we went out and did it because those kind of bets are a lot of fun that you can win a lot of money. I mean, everything's like 20 to 1, 10 to 1.
Yeah, I think also as a whole we killed it at blackjack. Like I think everyone's up, was up, so that's good. So all in all, it wasn't a complete waste. But really quick, do you want to talk about our bets really quick, the ones we made?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. Eric actually has his here to show you. I left mine.
Well, I feel like I can't show these ones because these are going to be our picks later for NFC, AFC, and Ravens. But it's really cool. You can do rushing yards, which I went and did Steven Jackson. I did a few homer bets here. So I threw that one out. But that's $100. $5. If he gets the most rushing yards, I get $100.
Yeah, he's going to have a big season, so it's not a
Off
terrible
a $5 bet, yeah. Then I went with Arian Foster as well. So I can't actually win all 8 of these. I can actually only win 7 of them because I did a few where if one wins, then the other one's going to lose.
Yeah, and with my rushing ones, I did Darren McFadden and
homer bets.
Yeah, a little bit.
The best kind. $5 to throw out a homer bet.
And if Darren McFadden stays healthy, I think he could win. He could win the rushing title this year. Like he's he's amazing as long as he's healthy. And then
Which I've said that same thing, that if
Yeah.
he stays healthy, he could be the number one running back at the end of the year.
yeah, for sure.
Easily.
And then I also did Ray Rice because they're strangely down on Ray Rice, even though he's the workhorse of the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't know what that
Yeah.
is.
So I feel like I had to go with him. And then who'd you go with receiving wise?
I went with Calvin Johnson.
Always
I kind of
safe.
went with safe bets on all of them, even though they were $5. I felt like I probably could have went a little bit crazier.
Yeah.
Who did you go with?
I went with Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall. That's
which
actually
I
wanted
feel
that
like
same one.
is not an unsafe bet because he did really well last year with Miami, and Miami hasn't had a quarterback since Dan Marino. So, yeah, he just had basically people who barely could play college ball throwing to him. So,
Should be fun.
so with Jay Cutler, I think he's going to do well. Jay Cutler loves him. He loves to go to him. So I think it's not that crazy of a bet. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, yeah, you don't know anything. Brandon Marshall's just a troublemaker or whatever. But I think he has the same body type as Calvin Johnson, the same skill set. He just hasn't had a good quarterback. So hopefully,
I think we're both really high on Brandon Marshall.
yeah, and I think
It's not a bad
I think
thing.
he's going to be at least a top 10. I think he could be number one. It just depends. And then passing, who do you have?
I went with Aaron Rodgers. I kind of went with the safe bet. They throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
He has a lot of receivers, so
Yeah,
it's kind of a little bit of safe bet.
Yeah, and one thing I kind of try to tell Eric on this is that betting on these is a little bit different than fantasy football because I think Aaron Rodgers could potentially maybe be the top fantasy quarterback, but I don't think he'll be the top passing quarterback because a lot of people, and I'm sure Eric realizes it, but Aaron Rodgers runs a decent amount in. That's where he gets a decent amount of his points. Like he'll run 5 to 10 touchdowns in this year, I bet. So I went with Matt Stafford because Matt Stafford, I don't know if you've seen him run. It's not great. And he knows how injury prone he is. So
I like that.
yeah, so I think his will be strictly passing, and it's passing yards, and that's the thing is I think the reason he isn't going to be number one in fantasy is he throws too many interceptions. He does throw a lot of touchdowns, and he throws for more yards, but that's why he's not ever going to be number one though. Is he gets crazy, he tries to bomb at every play, and he throws interceptions, but he still has Calvin Johnson. I think Tyus Young will be good. So I think he
Gets
will
a
get
lot
the
of
most
yards.
yards, but I don't think he'll be the number one quarterback in fantasy.
I definitely maybe should have put a little bit more thought into it.
No, I don't know. I think you could be right. I don't know.
But it was the same bet. I think it was both 5-1 if I remember correctly. So it's kind of
Yeah, which
it
is
wasn't
kind of
like
weird.
It was way more. Yeah,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't think. You would think Aaron Rodgers would have been by far the highest rated, with Matt Stafford quite below him.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit of it as well. The other three, like I said, we'll go over the NFC, AFC, and Super Bowl picks later, which that's what we bet on. So as far as everything else, we're fantasy top 5. We got Sean over here.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. Top 5. What is it? Sorry, Sean.
Twitter, FTF Sean.
Yeah, FTF Sean. Blanked there for a second. And you can also find our information on our website at just www.fantasytop5
Spelled out. FIVE. .com. Yeah, we did a lot of it. We did a lot of work to it this week, which is really nice because it was pretty bare before. It's pretty much
and yeah, it looks pretty good now.
posts.
It's got a lot of stuff on it.
So you can go on there. You can actually see our live podcast that we do as well. It's at justin.tv/fantasytop5, but you can get to it from the website as well. I'm Eric. My Twitter is FTF Eric, which I need to be better about Twitter. You're really on top of it, and I just barely copied yours and pasted it in, so I felt like I was doing something, which I need to do a lot better at.
And to all your followers, it looks like you're doing something, so it definitely worked.
Except it's your exact same post, which.
Yeah.
And then we got Lane. He's the producer. He's back there, producing stuff. He's producing this podcast, actually.
Yeah, I am.
There he is.
It's sweet. It's awesome.
What's your information for Twitter, Lane?
Oh, I'm FTF Lane. That's LAYNE at Twitter. That's where that's at. My Twitter is at Twitter,
It
believe it or
is.
not.
Not in that symbol. And then all our emails are Sean, Lane, and Eric at fantasytop5.com. And then we also have our main page as well. So we have at fantasytop5 Twitter, which if you just want to only follow that one, that's not bad. We need to be better about kind of handling that one. And info at fantasytop5.com if you want to send an email in. And then, come on to Justin TV and chat with us.
Yeah, and the season's starting. That's the thing is when we were talking about at the beginning, we were talking about all the stuff we were excited for. Don't get us wrong. We had a really rough 24 hours there in Windover and stuff, but we are still super excited. The football season's starting, which is awesome.
This podcast is going, and it's doing really,
yeah, we
I feel
made
like
the
we're
cut.
doing well.
We didn't get cut, which is awesome.
I think we'll be here next week.
Yeah, unless we get an injury, and then who knows. But
Which I did injure my shoulder, but I think I can play through it. I almost couldn't. I mean, it was kind of hurting earlier. I almost had to sit on the bench.
you did lean on the betting machine yesterday and nearly collapsed.
That's really that's how I heard it. Actually, I was leaning in to bet, and it gave out. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, betting
It's a lot of work doing this podcast, betting football.
Yeah, it's not as easy as one might think.
I don't know how the athletes do it. It's hard enough just watching.
Oh yeah, one more bit of news. Obviously, we're excited for the fantasy football to start. So you might wonder why I'm wearing this medal around my neck. And I know I look like it. I could be an Olympic caliber athlete, but I'm not. I actually was training last year for a more important prize, and that's the first place for our fantasy league, the greatest league on DERF.
Such a good name.
And I'll actually show you what I got for winning that. It's over here.
Well, Sean didn't tell me he was going to sit and brag about all this, or else I would have brought my little teeny trophy as well and bragged.
Yeah, this is our fantasy greatest league on backward. Greatest league on DERF. You can see it there. That's my baby. I got it until the end of this season when I do the presentation to myself when I win again. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I didn't bring mine, and maybe I probably shouldn't have, but I also have a second place medal. I love our league.
Yeah, it's a little bit smaller of a medal, and he has a little trophy too, don't you?
Yeah, I got
it's got
a little one. Yeah, and we'll be drafting that later today, which I'm excited about. So we got to get through this so we can do some drafting.
Yeah, awesome. So
we'll start out with our news like we always do. Top 5 news, which I like that. It's a good thing to start out with. The first one is MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew, returns. Holdout is over. The only problem is he's not going to start.
Yeah, he's going to play a very limited role is what I've seen. So Rashard Jennings looks like that he's going to get the start and he's going to get the majority of the carries. So that's kind of interesting. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that will last all of the first game.
Yeah, they'll try to show him until it's like, oh, wait a minute. MJD's really good.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Why are we sitting him?
Yeah, it's one of the few holdouts I agree with. Like, I didn't agree with Chris Johnson last year. I don't agree with Mike Wallace. I don't agree with a guy who's the second best receiver on his team and Mike Wallace asking for a holdout. But Maurice Jones-Drew is an amazing running back. Like, he's that whole team. And they're like, we're not going to pay you money. I mean, we got Blaine. We got Blaine Gabbert. We got to pay him some money. We're not good with giving you any more money. But he came back, and before the season, like everyone kind of knew he would, he's Maurice Jones-Drew like that. And depending on I think he will get some work in this first game. So if he does, I still think he'll be on pace to be a top 10 running back. Like, he is insane. And they're not going to get it completely away from the running. I think they're going to pass more this year, but I still think he'll get some passes out of the backfield. I think he's still going to be a very usable fantasy guy. But if you do have him, pick up Rashard Jennings for this week.
Just because you never know. Number 2, Witten, the game time decision, which is kind of surprising because it seems like actually a lot of the Cowboys people are going to be back. I think it sounds like Miles Austin is going to be back as well. I don't know exactly if I would play any of them just because you never know coming off an injury and stuff like that. But I guess he's going to have an examination on Tuesday, and but he may be back, may not. So
it kind of just has to do with the examination to see if his spleen's any better, and kind of go from there. But all right, our third piece of news we have is Kellen Winslow was cut from the Seahawks, which I don't know. It's a bit of a surprise to me. But
That's the thing is Kellen Winslow is he's not the best tight end, but for some reason I really like him.
well, that's the thing is he's a tight end who plays like a receiver,
Mm-hmm.
but he also kind of has an attitude like a receiver, which really tight ends in a lot of ways are just glorified linemen. Like they need to be able to block, they need to do the extra stuff, and I think he has a problem doing the extra stuff.
Which I can see he's not the biggest guy.
Yeah, and they also I don't know, the Seahawks are. I still think they look good. Like I'm actually really up on the Seahawks right now. Like I don't
Mhm.
think they're playoff bound or anything, but I think they are headed in the right direction, with or without Kellen Winslow.
That's true. The fourth one is another thing where just a lot of weird cuts. The Patriots cut quite a few people. Deion Branch, Jabbar Gaffney, along with a bunch of other. Those I think they're the main two that kind of stood out to everyone. And then not only that, but they pick up Greg Salas from the Rams, which Greg Salas isn't the best player, but it's still kind of weird because he's still kind of that same Wes Welker slot receiver, which is kind of strange because they have the best one
Yeah.
in the game. And so I don't completely understand what their thinking is, but that's the thing. The Patriots and the Seahawks picked up a lot of players
Yeah.
in the offseason, and I guess now they're just getting rid of it. And I guess it was bound to have a few that were at least some decent-sized names
Yeah. But I would
get cut. So
I would not be surprised to see Jabbar Gaffney or Deion Branch picked up within the next
by the Rams.
by the Rams or anyone.
Show 'em.
Maybe the
You're gonna
Dolphins
take Greg
could
Salas.
pick him up because they just I don't know. The Dolphins don't have a lot of receivers right now. But yeah, because those two are both. Deion Branch is a little old, but he's still a usable receiver. Like I think they mainly cut him because they have Brandon Lloyd, and Brandon Lloyd's basically a younger, better version of Deion Branch.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so our fifth piece of news we have is Adrian Peterson. They're not 100% sure if he's going to play in Week 1 because I think mainly they're not looking to rush their franchise guy back out there.
Which is a good decision. I think it's even good for the people who own him. Same thing as last year, like you said. If he maybe had sat out the end of the year, he probably wouldn't be in this predicament. So
Yeah, you're probably right. And but that's the thing is, I still think Adrian Peterson, maybe he misses the first couple games, maybe. But I think for the most part, he should be back at the latest, maybe week 3, week 4. But until then, if you own him, I would pick up Gerhardt because Gerhardt actually hasn't played bad in his absence.
mm-hmm.
So plan on him getting, even if AP does play this first game, plan on Gerhardt getting the bulk of the carries. So if AP is kind of your go-to guy that you picked up, or your number 2 back, and you don't have a solid third back, pick up Gerhardt. He's definitely usable, and I think he's actually going to be a decent back for a majority of the season because I think they're going to try to not do what they've done and just put all the weight on Adrian Peterson and his bad knee. So we'll see where they go from there.
All right, there's the news. So we came up with a few cool things. We kind of did a lot of our stuff the last two, but this one I think is really cool, especially now that preseason is over and everything. So we decided to go with the top 5 preseason standouts, which is a pretty cool list. There's a lot of cool players on here that is kind of, some are kind of surprises, some are kind of not. But yeah, let's go through them, and then Sean's got stats next to him as well. So the number one, I think everyone who at least has paid a little bit of attention to the preseason knows this one, which is Russell Wilson, who's going to be starting for the Seahawks.
Yeah, he had 110 passer rating throughout the preseason, and 2 of those games he played against the starters. He wasn't playing against the B team on all of his games, and he still played well. He had 5 touchdowns, only 1 interception, 536 yards. So I think I really like Matt Flynn, but I think Russell Wilson earned the spot, and I think he's going to keep it. Like he's an amazing talent. So the Seahawks have 2 really good quarterbacks there right now.
Yeah, and I wonder what to do as far as picking either of those up. I mean, definitely 2 quarterback leagues. Pick up Russell Wilson.
Mad upside.
Upside. He could do really well. So number 2, Nick Foles.
Yeah, Nick Foles, the backup for the Eagles.
For Vic.
Yeah, who also played great, and that's awesome because now Andy Reid has Michael Vick, who Michael Vick everyone knows his skill set. Like he likes to bomb it. He could do a little more short passes to get himself out of getting just destroyed and getting sacked all the time, and he likes to run it. So therefore, he's injury prone. So now they have a legitimate backup behind him.
Vince Young.
Yeah, Vince Young didn't. Vince Young. Yeah,
I don't
Vince
know why.
Young's
I really-
semi-legitimate.
Where's he at now? He went to Buffalo, and I don't even know if he. I think he finally
not-
got
I don't
cut from
think-
there.
yeah, I think
but
he
I
got
really
cut.
was so excited for the Eagles last year. That was fun. But maybe this guy's.
I think they're a lot more legit this year. Like they're ready to go to the playoffs. I think their defense is going to be better this year. And yeah, they have their franchise quarterback in Michael Vick, and then they have solid backup in Foles. And Foles' stats were similar to Russell Wilson's. He had 110 passer rating, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 553 yards. So pretty solid stuff from those first two.
Yeah, it really is 6 touchdowns. That's
Yeah.
and only 2 interceptions. Number 3 is the one that I think everybody assumed was going to come out and do amazing, but it was still kind of that who knows. And it's still only preseason, so it's still kind of a who knows. But Andrew Luck, I think, came out and definitely performed up to the standards that people thought he was going to.
Yeah, he had an 89 passer rating, which isn't amazing, but it's not bad. And he threw 3 touchdowns, and I'm a little worried about the 2 interceptions, but he did throw for 522 yards in the 4 preseason games. And I was actually looking at his stats, and he performed. He thrives under pressure because everyone's comparing him, and they're comparing RG3. And his best preseason game by far was the game against the Redskins. Like I think he's going to do well. I don't think I see the Colts in the playoffs this year, but I think definitely they are going places. Like they're looking to get out of where they were at last year. So I think Andrew Luck, obviously everyone's already high on him, so it's kind of an obvious one, but I think he's going to come out. I think he's going to do well. I wouldn't pick him up early, but maybe 2 quarterback leagues, or put him on the bench and just see what happens.
Is a good backup, yeah. Number 4, we did go with a lot of quarterbacks here, but I feel like quarterbacks are the easiest one to see in preseason. So, but number 4, Blaine Gabbert, who also has performed admirably.
Yeah, he played really well. He had a 95 passer rating, and here's what I like is they're obviously getting him to do a little bit of some check downs and stuff, not go big, because he had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 355 yards. The main thing there is 0 interceptions, because if they run the ball with MJD and they keep it, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes, I think with the addition of Blackman and Laurent Robinson to the team this year, I think he's going to have some good options to go to. So yeah, I think Blaine Gabbert is a good second quarterback again if you have a 2 quarterback league, and maybe stow him away on your bench. Maybe if you have a dynasty or a keeper league, pick him up and just see what happens. I don't think he's going to be Rodgers or Stafford or Breeze anytime soon, but I think he's definitely going to be a hell of a lot better than he was last year. So
That's a good point. And number 5, Curtis Painter. I watched the game. He played. He's on the Ravens now. Threw like 3 interceptions in like 10 minutes, but he still has the hair. So that was a preseason standout to me.
yeah,
Was that he still didn't cut the hair,
yeah, and it's a standout.
and it stood out.
Yeah.
Those 3 interceptions really stood out to me as like they were. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's not really who it is. Number 5 is actually Rod Streeter.
He's from the Raiders, and the Raiders are obviously dying for a possession receiver. Like all they have is fast guys. And Streeter got 18 passes for 165 yards. He was solid in all the preseason games. So I think Carson Palmer is going to look for him to help him get out of some tough spots because the Palmer's been looking deep, but he's been throwing a lot of interceptions. So I think he's going to be looking to check down a little bit more, and I think Streeter's going to help him out there.
All right. On to our next top five. So season's about to start. So I feel like we should probably go just top 5 games of the week. Just go ahead and throw them out there.
All
Number
right.
1, 49ers Packers. Should be a really good game.
Yeah, it should be a good game. And I think the 49ers this year, I'm really high on the 49ers, and I don't like being really high on the 49ers. But like I've said multiple times on this podcast, that the 49ers had a great defense last year, and that was about it. Alex Smith wasn't a great quarterback. They don't have a lot of great receivers, and they still made it to the semifinals. So you got to look at that, and then with their offensive additions they made this year, I think they're going to be a great team. So with this first game, the 49ers and the Packers, who do you think is going to win that, Eric?
I don't know. That's going to be a really that's going to be a fun game. And just because they're just both such good teams. Oh man, why do you keep going with these hard decision ones? I'm gonna go with the. I'll go with the Packers. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just had to pick one.
All
That's
right.
about it. I'm
And-
awful with decisions.
Yeah, well, the Packers are hard to pick against, but I think for the sake of argument, I'm going to pick the 49ers. I think it's close. I think it's fourth quarter, see who, like some big play. But I think the 49ers, I think they're good. I think they're going to win this one. What do you think, Lane?
Oh, that's Packers.
All right, Lane
Easy.
picks the Packers 2-1
Two
against me.
one.
Well, you were just saying they were no good. Too. I also haven't watched any preseason though. Like,
okay.
I don't like the 49ers. Oh, they're no good. But they're gonna win. No, that's Packers.
Alrighty.
Second game, Giants, the Cowboys. That's the opener Wednesday, which should also be a fun game. Giants, Super Bowl winner. Cowboys. I don't know. This would be definitely a lot funner if a lot
anyone
more
was
fun
healthy.
if they were a lot healthier. But it's still opening game. I feel like it has to be in the top 5 just because it's the opening game. So
Yeah, and it'll be a good game. The Cowboys-Giants games are always good. And I think obviously I'm going to go with the Giants here. They won the Super Bowl. And I like the Cowboys. I like Romo. I think they have some good weapons, but like we were saying, Witten, no one's sure if he's going to play. Des Bryant, no one's ever sure how long he's going to play any given game. And Miles Austin's just coming back from injury. So I think they're going to lose. I think the Giants are going to win this one. What do you think, Eric?
I agree. Giants.
Giants.
All right, we all go with the Giants on that one.
The number 3 game should be pretty good. Bengals and the Ravens. I'm going with a division rivalry. It's not really a rivalry, but it could be someday.
In division games, I feel like are always kind of rivalries.
Division game. That's, I guess, what I probably should have said. But yeah, this should be good. The Bengals are doing a lot better. They had a really good season last year, and the Ravens I'm all in on. So it should be a good game. If the Bengals upset the Ravens, it'd be pretty crazy.
I don't know if it'd be that crazy. The Bengals
It wouldn't be that crazy. It would just be just crazy enough.
Yeah, just crazy enough maybe. But I think who do you think's going to win? Then you say the Ravens?
Yeah, I'm all in on the Ravens this year.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go with the Bengals on this one.
I'm also Ravens. So there
All
you
right.
go.
2-1 against me again. All right, and
You're
then
no good at picking.
I guess.
It hasn't even happened yet.
And then fourth game, we're going to go with the Steelers and the Broncos. And that game is a big game just because of the playoffs, I think, last year. The Broncos and Tim Tebow, which Tim Tebow isn't there anymore, but he's the one who won. I guess he's a lot of the reason they won the Steelers last year. And so the Steelers are going to be going, and they're going to be wanting to destroy the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. The Broncos now have Peyton Manning. So I think it should be a pretty. I think it'll be actually a really good game. I've watched the preseason. I've seen Peyton Manning play. Strangely, I hate it because I don't want the Broncos to do good because I'm a Raiders guy. But he looks like Peyton Manning,
And
and
I assumed he would. I kind of feel the same way as far as which team he ended up going to. But as far as I'm not surprised. I assumed he would come back and look in form.
yeah, and like I kind of thought, he's going to Eric Decker quite a bit because Eric Decker is a route runner, and he's good at that. So I think they're going to be a good combination this year. But in that game, I think the Steelers have got it.
I do too. I think it's going to take a little while for the Broncos. And by a little while, I mean maybe one game, maybe even a half a game. But I still think it may take them a little while to kind of get going, where I think the Steelers will have a good game and end up winning that one.
What do you think, Lane?
I don't quite know how I feel about the Steelers just yet, so that's a tough one. But I can't vote for the Broncos. Maybe this year I finally can. We'll see. Yeah, that's a tough one.
So Steelers or
I don't know. That's tough. I haven't watched any preseason. I'm not hardcore enough. But I want to vote for the Steelers. So yeah, we'll go with them.
all right, all of us go for the Steelers. And then the fifth game, we have the Raiders and the Chargers. And obviously, I think this is a good game because the Raiders are rivals with just about everyone. But when it's in their division, it's always a battle. And there's a reason the Chargers and Raiders play almost every opening Monday night game because it's always a good game. It usually comes down to the last few plays, and I think it's going to be interesting. But I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
I think it should be a good game as well. I'm excited. Monday night, doubleheader. That's going to be a fun night of football. Yeah, it should be pretty good.
I'm obviously going to pick the Raiders on this. Like I think that division's really really tight. Like I think any one of the teams could come out ahead. They were all super tight last year. I don't think like obviously the Broncos added Peyton Manning, but I still don't think they made that enough other upgrades that they're going to be that good. And so yeah, I think the Raiders are going to win.
Who'd you vote for, Eric?
On this one,
Yeah.
I haven't picked yet.
Oh, you haven't picked yet.
I'm going to also go with the Raiders.
I think this is a tough one. This is the opposite of the other one though. I think I want to vote for Raiders. That's who I want to win, but I think the Chargers will pull it out.
All right. Lane's going against the Sean and Eric vote.
Yeah, no big.
All right. So the other thing we're going to do, because in case anyone didn't know, football's about to start.
Oh, it
I don't
is?
know if anyone. Yeah, have you heard that?
I think I've heard about it. I don't know. What is this football you speak of?
It's a game. Maybe we should have laid this out for everyone who's listening who doesn't actually know what football even is. Maybe we should just have a whole podcast explaining the rules and what it even is. I think there could be a lot of people listening being like, this is really interesting, but I don't know what they're talking about. So we decided to do some top 5 starts and top 5 sits, which we'll do every time. But we haven't done it yet because football wasn't starting. And so... And since preseason doesn't matter, and since most people didn't have teams, we decided not to do it. So the top 5 so far, I think are fairly obvious. There's a lot of pretty good matchups for some really good players. Arian Foster has a home game versus Miami, which doesn't have the best defense. So I definitely see Arian Foster having a really good opening game.
And it's Arian Foster. I mean, he's insane. Watching him run is mind blowing. Really, like he's crazy good. And Miami, and that's the thing is, I think the Texans are going to get up a little bit, and then they're just going to kind of run the ball and run the ball and run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And Miami's, I don't think Miami's going to be as bad as a lot of people think they're going to be, but I think to start the season, they have so many new parts. It's going to be hard to get that all going together. So I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree. You agree with me, and I agree with myself. Apparently, number 2, Calvin Johnson. Opening game is against the Rams. It is the Lions and the Rams, which I'm pretty in on the Lions this year. And the Rams, I mean, I know they did upgrade their defense. I don't think it'll be quite as bad as last year, where if a team was playing the Rams, it was just an automatic 10,000 points for every player on the opposing team. Even the awful ones, just straight up 10,000 points versus the Rams. But at the same time, I do think, once again, Calvin Johnson will have a awesome game, and the matchup does look to be favorable.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. Like, they got Cortland Finnegan now, which is going to make them better, but Calvin Johnson is Calvin Johnson. Like, you almost could do Calvin Johnson as a start almost every week. Like, that's kind of his role as a starter.
And I may if I get lazy. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. It might the same list might just be the same next week. I just change who they're playing. I may not even change that, although I probably will because I'll look like an idiot. Number 3, Jay Cutler versus the Colts. Like we've all talked about on this podcast quite a few times so far. We enjoy the Jay Cutler, Brandon Marshall chemistry going on. And the Colts do not have that great of a defense. So
Yeah, they really, really don't. So, yeah, I think Cutler's going to he'll have a solid game. And not just because of Brandon Marshall. Anyone who watches the Bears know the Bears like to dump it off to Forte, who's amazing catching the ball out of the backfield. So I think, Cutler's got a pretty safe first game, I would say.
yeah, I agree. I don't know if he'll be the top quarterback like we've all kind of talked about, but at the same time, if you're kind of having trouble choosing between him and somebody else, we think he'll have a good game. Number 4, Jimmy Graham. Tight end versus the Redskins. I think he will have a very good game. I think Drew Brees will pass him the ball.
That is his
Once or
quarterback,
twice.
I would assume.
And and yeah, the Redskins, I mean, I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to the Redskins and their defense, but I think it's pretty safe to assume that he'll have a good game as a tight end no matter who he's playing. So
Yeah, I agree with you. The Redskins don't have a bad defense, but Jimmy Graham is, in my opinion, the best tight end in the league. I think, and Drew Brees lost a couple. Well, he lost Meacham in the offseason, and I think Lance Moore is going to fill in pretty good there. But I think Jimmy Graham, who got a lot of balls last year, is going to get a lot this year as well.
I agree. And number 5, we have the Houston defense, which Houston is playing Miami, like we said earlier, with Arian Foster. And like we talked about, I think Miami's going to take a few games before they even start really doing anything. They have Tannehill starting, which who knows. But he maybe looked like the best quarterback out of a bunch of quarterbacks that maybe weren't that great. So we'll have to see. I mean, they could surprise us a little bit, but I think the Houston defense is a pretty safe bet. Even, once again, no matter who Houston played, they had a really good defense last year that you could pretty much count on starting most weeks. So
Yeah, we're really not trying to pick on Miami. Like, Miami's just it's obvious with all the changes they've made. They didn't keep around Brandon Marshall because they didn't want to deal with his problems that he's had off the field. They didn't keep Ocho Cinco for kind of the same reason. And he's a little bit less talented, obviously, than Brandon Marshall. But they are rebuilding. And when you're rebuilding, you don't win a lot of games. But I think that they have a lot of potential on the team. But Houston's defense is really, really solid. So, yeah, I think that's a good call for you, Eric.
and the top 5 sits. First one we're going to go with is Maurice Jones-Drew, like we talked about in the news. He's not going to start game 1. So I think it's pretty safe to not start him on your league in game 1 as well. You should probably follow.
My name's Eric. I just started sounding like a robot. That was really weird.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
But that's the thing. Yeah, if you own a Maurice Jones-Drew, you should be excited that he's back. But don't
I
be
know, and it's so
overly
exciting
excited.
because if you own him, you want to play him.
Yeah, but just I wouldn't yet. And if he randomly, if Rashard Jennings doesn't do anything for the first half or something, and Maurice Jones-Drew just comes out in the second half and plays the whole second half and owns, then that's bad on us. But I don't think Maurice Jones-Drew is going to have Maurice Jones-Drew numbers for this first game of the season.
And I think, like we talked, I think it will only be this game. I think second game, I think they'll be starting him, just because that's not a person you want to put on your bench, whether you're playing fantasy or if you're playing NFL. He's pretty talented. Number 2 is another really good player that I think it kind of hurts to sit on your bench. Adrian Peterson. Just injury concerns and who exactly knows what he's going to be like when he comes back and everything else. So
Yeah. And with how hard it's going to be if you have him to sit him on your bench, even if it says he's going to start, it's probably the right decision because they're not going to get their franchise guys knee injured again right off. They'll maybe give him a few carries, get him back out there, get him to get some contact, just get him back in game mode. But I don't think he's going to play all that much in this first game.
yeah, and this one could sit on the sit list for a few weeks as well. So number 3, Ryan Matthews. It looks like he will be back, but it doesn't look like. I don't know. This one he may play well. He did play a little bit with the team before he actually got injured. But at the same time, you may want to just check and see. I don't know before starting him.
Yeah, you never know. Did it say he was starting then? Is he off the injury list or?
I think so.
Yeah, I didn't.
I don't know. We'll look that up. Number 4 is Miles Austin, who looks like he will be back as well. But it's kind of the same things. When players come off of injuries, I'm just always a little weary. It wouldn't be the first time a player came off an injury and just had monster crazy numbers, but almost every time you just never know. I mean, the biggest thing I worry about is the players coming back from injury, taking 2 or 3 steps, and then realizing they need to come out of the game.
Yeah, and Arian Foster did it at the beginning of last season. Like he came
Yep.
back out, tried to force it, and then had to sit a little bit more. And also,
And
actually,
there's nothing worse than that. Starting a player,
for 4
having
plays.
him go out, have him play, 4 plays, and then sit, and you're stuck with .13
yeah.
points, and that's it.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
a better reference would have been, for what I said, would have been Miles Austin, because Miles Austin kind of did the same thing.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, so, and he managed to miss a lot of games, but he is so good that it's hard to not start him. But
Well,
you
it's
need to
so
make
hard when
sure
they
he's-
come back from that industry. And sometimes, I mean, there's been times where they come back from an injury, and you don't even know they're starting until that morning, and they decide they're going to play, and they have this huge game, and you're like, I didn't even know he was playing. So that's also why it's good to check beforehand to
Ye-
find out who is playing and who's not, if you have Sunday mornings available for that. But I do always worry because there's nothing worse than that 2-3 steps, and then they sit the whole rest of the game. And you
Yeah.
can't switch them out. That's not a
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah, and actually backup one, Ryan Matthews, I did look it up. It looks like, yeah, he is hopeful for week 1.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so you were right. But I still would say, yeah, he's a sit. Because personally, for one reason, I think he's rushing back from the injury. I think he's likely to get injured again since it's like a 4 to 6 week recovery time, and he's rushing it back and right at 4 weeks. And I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens with that.
At number 5, I have Mike Wallace. He did sign about 4 or 5 days ago. So he is going to be on the team, but he has not been with the team. So I think it may take him a little while to kind of get back out there, get rolling. Those holdouts make it hard because you're not with the team
Yeah.
when you should be, which is kind of even the same with MJD when he comes back, which is why it's kind of safe to sit him this week, even just because he hasn't been with the team. He's been holding out. So
Yep.
those first few weeks are always a little,
Iffy.
you just never know. And then also, yeah, they're not probably not very happy with him either. I mean, that's also part of the holdout.
Yeah, and with Mike Wallace, I believe he is going to start week 1, but I don't know how many of you watched the preseason, but in his time away complaining about not getting enough money, Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger have actually, and all the other quarterbacks really have made a pretty good rapport. Like Antonio Brown had a really, really solid preseason, and so I think that's going to be the go-to guy for right now. And don't be wrong, Mike Wallace is a great receiver, but I think, like you said, it's that just he's not going to function well in the offense right away. He's going to take him at least a week, and I think he'll be safe to start after this week, but I wouldn't start him week 1.
I agree. All right, so we're actually finishing up, which is nice. This one's a little bit quicker. I think we'll be under an hour, which is what we're going to be every time. We have to be because we're doing it before the Monday night game. So
yeah, and from here on out, we're going to do it starting exactly an hour before the Monday night game. We'll take your tweets on the games for obviously the Monday night game if you have anyone you're looking to start.
So anyone who's listening, come on, get on the chat, come chat with us. We've had some good periods where the chat room is hopping, and we've had some times where it's kind of dead. So we really want to try to get, so anyone who listens to it, anyone who subscribes, we're on iTunes now. I did that this week, so we're up on iTunes and a few other podcasts. You can search for us, and you'll be able to find us. And anyone else, go to our website, Fantasy Top 5.
Yeah, you can listen to it live there. You can, no, not live. You can just stream it there. We have a YouTube page, but all that information can be found on there. Just to keep it simple for you, you can just go www.fantasytop5, spelled out FIVE.com, and all of our information's there. You can find a link to go find any of our Twitters, and to find a place, like you can find our YouTube page there. You can find our feed burner there, which is where you can download the podcast.
And subscribe to it.
Yeah, you can subscribe to it and download it for on the go. And then also, like Eric said, we're now on iTunes. So for the majority of people who use iTunes a lot, you can
just
get
search
it there.
for Fantasy Top 5.
Yep.
And we'll be the first one that pops up. The last thing we're going to do today is our NFC, AFC picks, championship picks, and our Super Bowl picks. You want to go first, Sean?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go first. I have, coming out of the NFC, I have the 49ers. And I actually, like Lane said earlier, I wasn't saying that they were crappy. I was saying they had a crappy offense last year, and they had an overly amazing defense. I believe they didn't let, the defense didn't let anyone score a rushing touchdown until, what was it, the last week of the season that they played the Seahawks, and Beast Mode got a touchdown on them. Yeah, so that's an accomplishment and a half. Like, so, and then
I kept waiting for it.
Yeah, and they added Randy Moss, they added Manningham, and they also added Jacobs to help him in the backfield. And a quick little tidbit, I guess, the Randy Moss, who a lot of people are down on, last time he came back, we'll switch teams. He played for the Patriots, and he had a similar preseason to this one where he did very little, and a lot of people think it's because they didn't want to show what they're going to do with him. And then that was the year that Brady had 50 touchdowns, and a lot of those were to Randy Moss. And I don't think, obviously, Alex Smith is only a little bit better than Tom Brady, so I don't think it will make a big difference. But like, I think it won't be the same year, obviously. And actually, you probably noticed I was joking. Alex Smith isn't as good as Brady, but I think with their offensive weapons, like they're really good. So I think they're going to come out of the NFC, and I think the Texans are going to come out of the AFC. And that's just, the Texans are really good. They have a great defense. They have the best running back in the league. They have a quarterback that a lot of people are down on, but it's because I think a lot of people don't realize that a couple years ago he was just tearing it up, but then they got Arian Foster and realized it's a lot easier to win teams when all you do is run it down their throat. So I think that's what they're going to do, and I think they're going to use Ben Tate as well,
who's also very talented.
Yeah, and then obviously Andre Johnson, we're down on him, but that's just because of injury things. If he can stay healthy the whole season, I think they're unstoppable. They also have Owen Daniels, and yeah, that's who I see going to the Super Bowl.
Which
Then
would be nice. I want to see the Texans go.
Yeah, and then I think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl though, which kills me because I feel like I'm one of those people who's jumping on the bandwagon. And it's not that I love the 49ers, it's that I couldn't think of who else to
That's
pick.
typically who you are. So
Yeah, a Raiders fan who's just
on the
of
bandwagon, always.
a great team.
You're really not. I feel like neither of us are.
Yeah, our favorite teams are pretty great, the Rams and the Raiders.
Which, yeah, if we really were that way, we would not admit that on anything,
Yeah.
let alone an actual podcast going out to millions.
Yeah, I'm not going to lift up my sleeve to millions. I'm not going to lift up my sleeve of this Raiders shirt and show you guys my Patriots tattoo just yet. So I'm not a front runner.
So my picks, NFC, I went with the Lions. I think they have a really talented team. I think last year they easily could have taken it. I think we've been really high on Matt Stafford, Calvin Johnson,
Titus Young.
Titus Young. The defense is awesome, and I really do see them coming out of the NFC. I saw it last year, and then, like I said, they just had I don't know, it's almost like the end of the season they just kind of dropped off. But I don't see that happening this year. I think they'll do a lot better. For the AFC, like I said, I have the Ravens going really far this year. They almost were there last year. They did lose Suggs, which I think is a huge impact, but he should be back by the end of the year. Hopefully. And yeah, I just see them, like I said, they almost made it to the Super Bowl, and I think they would have had a chance to win it if they did. And as far as my Super Bowl pick, I'm going to go with the Ravens.
Fair.
So there it is. Lane, do you want to throw out a Super Bowl pick?
No. But I
All
will.
right.
I'll just Bucks. The Buccaneers got it. They're getting it one of these days.
Why do we all like awful teams?
One of these years.
I don't know why we all like these just terrible teams.
No, how about now? I like that there's
At least
a lot
we're
of
not
good
front
teams.
runners. At least we're
Yeah.
not front runners, and we will pride ourselves on that until our teams are good,
Yeah, and then we will look like front runners.
and then we will look like it. But people, we'll point everyone back to these podcasts and say, "Do you remember? Go
And-
back and listen to that,"
And they will say no.
because we didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, "Well, then go listen to it now."
And they
There
will
is-
say no.
There's evidence. They will
Yeah.
say no, and they won't, but we can prove. We have evidence,
We have video proof.
video proof, audio proof. That's all the proof you need.
Yeah, realistically, that is all the proof.
And
you
I
need.
will tell them the proof is in the pudding, my friend.
And the pudding is a podcast.
And it's the Pudding Podcast. That's what we are. All right, so let's wrap things up. 53 minutes.
Yeah,
Too
not
bad.
Under an hour. And,
And
yeah,
we will be back next Monday.
4 o'clock before
4
the
o'clock. It's going to be a really early one. But yeah, just think. And I have the whole schedule. We put the whole schedule up on the website as well. So if you have any questions or anything else, go to fantasytop5.com and we have the schedule. Peace out.
Yeah, peace out.
There it is.